Welcome to Heal the World Show podcast, brought to you by the Healing Institute. I'm Parmelia Parham, and I am the founder of the Healing Institute. We are an online worldwide hub of holistic practitioners, and we are wanting to make a difference with health and healing globally for people. We want to give people hope. We want people to know there are ways to be well and stay well on our health journey, because let's face it, we're all on a health journey. I've been using holistic ways of being well for well over 30 years, so I know that it works. And all of our practitioners we have on the hub, they are getting to the root cause of what's going on. They're not just looking at symptoms, they're actually getting to the root cause of what's happening in people's health and why symptoms are showing up. So one of the reasons that I'm was very excited about creating the Healing Institute. Well, two reasons, but one is because I called it an institute because I'm very passionate about education and educating people about the different ways to be well. And the other one is a story that we had as a tragedy in our family where my mom passed away at a young age. She was only 61, and it was due to a complication because she'd been on a medication for a very long time. And it happened right before Christmas. I was 5 months pregnant with my son, my first child. And I say it's not only a tragedy that she passed away when she because she was so young, but also that my children didn't get to meet their grandmother. So I don't want that happening for other families. So that's why I am really passionate about educating people about all the wonderful modalities we have out there now for people to be well and stay well. So I'm just going to also say welcome to Marie Piplovic. She's one of our holistic practitioners. She usually pops on. And also we have another guest today, Dagmar. Dagmar had sent me a message on LinkedIn earlier, and I invited her to come. So Dagmar, we're just going to kind of leave you in the back for right now. And then I'll bring you in later after we finish recording. But you're welcome, both Marie and Dagmar, you're welcome to put any questions or comments that you might have in the chat. And while I'm thinking of it right at the moment, I am going to put both Lynn and Wendy's contact information in the chat, so you don't forget. And they all both have a little gift that they're offering for you today. So welcome. But May, I decided, was going to be Women's Health Month. So it's been a wonderful Fridays, all the Fridays of May that I've had some absolutely fantastic holistic practitioners coming to talk about women's health. And today I'm so very excited to have Lynn Schuschler Williams and Wendy Lauritzen that are here to talk about. We're going to be talking about a couple of different modalities. One is called Reset It, and the other one is EFT or tapping. So we're going to talk about how those work so well with women's health. And actually, this podcast, I've been doing this for a year and a half. So this podcast is our 94th episode. So I'm very excited. 6 more to go and we'll be at 100. So I'm very excited that we've been able to do it for as long as we have. And so, yes, welcome, Lynn and Wendy. So wonderful to have you both here today. So Wendy, would you like to do just a little introduction of yourself and maybe an explanation about what EFT or tapping is?
Sure. Thanks for Parmelia. Thanks so much for having me. Excuse me. So I am Wendy Lauritzen. I am a certified holistic health coach. I help busy, usually middle age, over 30, over 40-ish and up women with their diet. So I help them improve that, especially when they're not knowing where to start with it. And I also help them lower their stress. And one of the tools I use is EFT tapping. And I've also been getting into helping people with support in spiritual awakening, because a lot of people are going through that as well. And that can be very challenging, and it's very much of a mind, body, spirit approach to health and healing.
So
And
important to have all those concepts together. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, so the tool that I go to most of the time is EFT tapping, and it stands for emotional freedom techniques. It's called tapping because you tap on the acupressure points. There's a few on the head and on the torso, and I'll do a quick demo so people know
That would be
how it
great.
works.
Yeah.
So what it is it calms our nervous system down, specifically the amygdala in the brain,
Mhm.
which is kind of that fear center. So if you think of it as acupuncture, but without the needles, and then you tune in to the issue. So do you want me just to give you just a quick demo?
That would be fabulous. Yes, please
Okay.
do.
So what it is you think of what the issue is. So I'm going to use a real general one. When you would be doing it for yourself, it would be very specific, as specific as you can get. So instead of saying something like, oh, I feel so stressed, you would say, I feel so stressed because I have a job interview coming up.
Mm.
And I'm worried about not getting it, or I feel so stressed because I'm going to talk to my boss about getting a raise or a promotion, things like that. So it gets
Mhm.
very specific. So you tune into it and then you rate it on a scale of 0 to 10. Obviously, 0, you would have no trigger, no emotional charge from it. 10 would be you're, very stressed out about this issue.
Feeling
So
very
you
stressed.
just,
Yeah.
right. So you write it down, and just be honest about it, no judgment. Just, this is your truth. You're basically speaking your truth in that moment. So the first point, so you've got that number, you've written it down, and you're going like, okay, I'm tuning into this. The first point is the karate chop point, they call it. It's the side of the hand. And you just
Sorry,
gently
that number would be between 0 and 10. So,
between 0 and 10, and usually people are going to tap on something that's like at least over 5,
right,
if you're in
right.
the, 1, 2, 3-ish, but still you still want to, that you usually get down there after you've done some tapping.
Mhm, mhm.
So you can go back and reassess after you've done the
Oh, I
tapping
like that idea because so
if
you
you can
could
get that.
start tapping, get your number, start tapping, check in to see where that number is. And if you want it to be down or you're still feeling a bit stressed or overwhelmed, you want it to get it down even further, then you would do tap again.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
ideally, you're trying to get it where you have no emotional charge,
Mm.
no, people tap for pain, they tap for everything, cravings, addiction, trauma. I mean, you name it. You can just kind of experiment with it and just see where you can go. So the first point is on the side of the hand, and it can be either side, and it's called the setup statement. So
Okay.
you would just say the setup statement is going to be, and even though I have XYZ issue, I deeply and completely accept myself anyway. So you're basically saying I have this, but I still accept myself. I still love myself. I still
Mhm.
um, you know, embrace where I'm at right now. So we do that 3 times on this right here. So it would be, even though I'm just going to use the example of overwhelm
Okay. Perfect.
for women. I'm just throwing that out there. Again, this is very general, but say you're a woman that is, you have a very busy career, you have children, you have a house you're trying to maintain. You kind of have it all, but you feel like you don't have enough time to get things done, or you don't have enough time for self-care or for tapping or for reset it that Lynn's going to explain later. So you would say, even though I feel so overwhelmed, I deeply and completely accept myself anyway. And then we'd say that again. So we're going to do that 3 times right there. And so that's the first point. Again, just gentle tapping on each side. Doesn't matter, either
So you
one.
do one side and
You
then
just
the
pick
other.
one side, just pick one side for that, but it doesn't matter. And you don't count how many times you tap. You just relax into it, and you kind of tap. I've noticed you sort of tap um, the amount of times that it would take to actually say the statement,
Right,
and then you're
right.
kind of done.
Makes sense.
So, and then the first point is going to be the eyebrow point, they call.
Right. Right.
It's right at the edge of the eyebrow. And then you're basically kind of restating what you said in the setup statement.
Mm-hmm.
I feel so overwhelmed right there. And then the next point would be on the side of the eye. Sorry, right here. And you would say, I just feel like I just don't feel like I don't have enough time to do things. And then under the eye, this is on the bone. I feel so overwhelmed by all the obligations I have. And again, I'm just making this up right now. These are just examples.
They're
And
good
then the next
examples,
point,
though.
I'm sorry, what's that?
They're very good examples because.
Oh, thanks. And then the next point is under the nose. So you might say, oh, my job is just really draining me. And then the next point is under the mouth, above the chin. I just feel like I'm going in so many different directions. And the next point is the collarbone. It's right underneath your collarbone right there. And again, don't worry about, like, you'll get it. Like if you're over a little bit, don't worry about it. You'll find it. And then you would say, I have so much to do and I'm tired and I just feel so overwhelmed. You just, again, you're just speaking your truth, whatever's going on for you. And then the next point is under the arm. It's like 4 or 5 inches underneath the armpit. And you would say, this really intense, overwhelmed feeling that I'm trying to release, whatever it might be. And then on top of the head, I feel like I have so much to do and just not enough time to do it.
And
So
then you also say the last part of that, but I still accept myself for who I am.
that's just in the setup statement.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's just on the side of the hand.
Okay.
But there's no, people can get hung up on the wording.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't worry about that. There's no right or wrong. You can't get it. You can't really get it wrong. You just say whatever you're feeling in the moment. And then what's interesting is things like, people can start to feel energy move. You can start to feel heat
Yes.
sometimes, or cold or chills, or you start to feel maybe like a pain in somewhere that maybe had been kind of suppressed. You just sort of go with it, embrace it. Don't worry about it. It'll start to flow through. You're moving the energy.
And what's important is that you are tapping on those meridians.
Exactly.
Those acupressure points. And so that's what's helping calm the nervous system.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you're giving a voice to the issue that you have, and then you're also physically calming the nervous system, right? But because you are tapping on the meridian points.
Right.
So hopefully that all makes sense. So you're kind of doing both, and it's active. It's like you can talk about a problem, but it's nice to know that you're actually doing what like an acupuncturist would be doing if you were to go see them.
Right.
Except they're using the needles, because they're moving the energy too. But you can do this yourself. It's quick, it's easy to learn. Even 10, 15 minutes, sometimes you can notice a difference. So then what you would do at the end after you tapped, and you can do a couple of rounds, is you would tune into your number again. And see if it went, even if it only went a point, at least it's moving. The intensity isn't there as much. And then hopefully you can try to get it down a little bit further. So yeah, so that's it.
I love that. So
thank
can you
you.
give us an example perhaps of a client that you've worked with, not names, of course, but when you worked with them with this technique, and how that helped them?
Yeah, there was an interesting one. It was a while ago, but it stood out because she immediately made the connection between her stomach tension. She had a lot of stomach tension and pain, and it was a relationship that she had. And that's when you get into the deeper stuff.
Right.
That she noticed that really the stress that she was feeling and the tension and the pain in her abdomen was actually because of this individual, because she was very stressed out at that time. She was very involved in their life, and they had a lot of issues, and she was absorbing a lot of that, and she made the immediate connection between the two. And it was fascinating to see that, to see it start to release. Yeah.
Beautiful. I love the way that works.
Yes, it was really cool.
Thank you. Thanks so
Thank
much.
you.
And that was a great demonstration. So appreciate that.
Thank you
So,
so much.
so Lynn, so wonderful to have you here today. And
Thank you.
so delighted that you and Wendy could be partners together on our Heal the World Show podcast today. So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about
Okay.
yourself and where you're coming in from and
Yeah, thank you. So I'm from Louisville, Kentucky, and I love what Wendy just taught us. And I tapped it with her because I know it works. And I learned it a long time ago, but Wendy and I learned it about the same time, but she knows it way better than I do. But I will say for the women listening, you know, what happens when you learn something like what Wendy taught her client about the signals her body was giving her and ways to neutralize, right, that stress and that condition. It is golden, and it's a gift you give the rest of your family. My experience of EFT was then I taught it to my children.
mm,
And our children and our teens are experiencing anxiety and stress and all kinds of things at a higher and higher rate, higher than certainly all of us did as children and teenagers. And there's so many reasons for that, but being able to have a simple tool like EFT in your pocket to reduce their anxiety at the doctor when they're getting a shot is the one I remember doing it over and over and over. Like my pediatrician's office said, "Oh, they're going to do that tapping thing again," kind of thing. So
well, and
it's
as a mother, when you're taking your children to get those inoculations, you need to be calm as well because
right, exactly. And so it's just such a fabulous thing. So Wendy, thank you for taking us all through that. And
Thanks, Lynn.
a much more recent addition to my life is this reset it process. And it is based on neuroscience and quantum physics, which is just a fancy way of saying that it is based on how we are wired, how our minds and bodies work together, and how we interact with the quantum energy field, with the rest of the universe that we are being in. And so we teach it to our clients in 2 sessions, and those are 90-minute sessions about a week apart. And I don't do anything for the client or to the client. It isn't like energy work or even hypnosis where the practitioner is doing something to the patient or the client. It is I am a teacher. I am teaching my
Mhm.
clients to do something they've always been able to do. This is inherent to how we are built. And just nobody's taught them how yet. And the point of it is for us to reset the programming and conditioning that leads to embedded subconscious beliefs that get in our way. So none of us get out of childhood alive without programming from other people, parents, teachers, siblings, friends, bosses, spouses, all the people. They say things to us or do things, and those things become embedded in our subconscious and become a filter that we
Yeah.
see ourselves and the world through. And so that's programming. It also can come to us from society, right? Social
I was just going to
programming comes
say
to us
exactly.
constantly
Yeah.
through the media and through this onslaught of what's it mean to be smart? What's it mean to be a successful entrepreneur? What's it mean to be a woman? What should your body look like? What should you eat? Like, good Lord, just watch an American football game on TV and tune into the programming that is happening in the commercials around what should you eat and drink and what should it be, what kind of party should it be when you're watching football. Like, that's social programming at its most basic. So we all have that, as well as conditioning, which comes to us through repeated experience over time. So sometimes a program starts as a program and turns into a conditioned response. An example of that is a child is told by an elementary school teacher. Oh, don't worry, Johnny. Not everybody's good at math. You'll be good at something else. That's just not your thing. And Johnny has an embedded program that I'm not good at math. And for the rest of Johnny's life, the conditioned response gets hammered in every time he tries to do his taxes or balance his checkbook, or he's faced with this filter of, but I'm not good at math, right? And so when we remove those filters that come to us from programming and conditioning, what we are left with is clarity and freedom. And it is a beautiful thing to see ourselves clearly as our authentic selves, to see the world without those filters. And that's really what Reset It does for us. My story of it is, and there's a little video about this that's about 5 minutes long at the website 54yearthought.com. So 54, the numerals, thought.com, 54yearthought.com. And my father owned a trucking company when I was a kid, and I was a kid in the late 60s and early 70s. And Jimmy Hoffa, who was a well-known mob boss, was in charge of the Teamsters then. And as a result of that relationship, my father's life and my life specifically were threatened when I was a kid.
Oh my
He got a
gosh.
phone call that said, "Are you going to sign that contract?" And he said no. And he said, "Well, we saw your daughter walking to school today, and she had on a red sweater and a blue skirt, and it'd be a shame if she didn't make it home." And that
Ooh.
was 8-year-old me. And this went on for about 4 years. And the thought that I was left with, the embedded subconscious belief that is a thread that ran through my life until I learned to reset it, was it isn't safe to be too
Mhm.
successful. Better to fly under the radar and not get noticed, right?
Yeah.
And that influenced my choices in school and men, things I felt about my body, my relationship with food, all the things were influenced by this thought that it's, don't look too good, don't let people know you're too smart, don't, fly under the radar. And when I learned to reset it, those filters were gone, and it was a beautiful thing for
Well,
me.
that's such a powerful story, Lynn. Thank you for sharing that. I know that was pretty personal, but I mean, and we greatly understand how that would work. So I really appreciate the fact that the modality is called Reset It, because
Yeah,
that's what you're doing. You're resetting those beliefs that you've grown up with, and we've all grown up with those kinds
that's
of
right.
beliefs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I one of the ones that sticks out for me, um, my grandmother, who I'm named after, we had a very close relationship, but she, was raised in poverty when she married my grandfather. They ended up raising, 12 children, one of which was my mother, but they didn't ever really have any kind of wealth, if you will. And her belief was that anybody who had wealth was greedy.
Mm.
And she was very vocal about that. And so
Yeah.
that was, even though even as a young child, it didn't really resonate with me, but it was still there. And so,
Right.
yeah, it's something that it's a belief system that
Well, yeah,
you
it
need to
is.
get rid
And
of. You need
right.
to
And it's
release.
so interesting that you say that one, Permelia, because the thing that I brought for our listeners today is a self-assessment tool called the Tree of Programs and Conditions. And the trunk, if you picture a big oak tree, right, with a big
Hmm.
trunk and a bunch of fluffy branches, the trunk of that tree of programs and conditions is made up of categories of things that, kind of like I said earlier, nobody gets out of childhood alive without something in these categories. And one of those major categories is money, because everybody gets taught, what does money mean in some way. It'll be different for you than for me,
Yeah.
but it's still a category of program that almost everyone has something resettable in that category. Money is one, body image is one,
Yeah.
food, relationship with food, what does food
Health.
mean, is one.
Yeah.
And then I call this category, like mom and dad always said, Well, just ask yourself, what did mom and dad always say? And you're probably going to lead yourself to finding something in your tree
Yeah.
that's available to be reset. So,
Beautiful.
yeah.
I love it. And of course, the work that I do as a body code practitioner is looking at those emotions that are trapped in the subconscious and that we need to release them because we don't want to have them, even though they're in their subconscious, they're also in our bodies, and we don't want that to create
Yes.
dis-ease.
That's right. We actually use the body as well in the reset it process, and it's important, and we can reset symptoms, we can reset events, we can reset um, anything that doesn't belong to us is what we're resetting.
Well, and it's so very important for us to be able to understand that that is, our bodies are amazing. They tell us, they talk to us all the time. We just have to listen. Sometimes I need that 2x4 up the side of my head before I'm actually getting the message, but eventually I will get the message. So when we can listen to our bodies and we can learn how to listen to our bodies, and we can learn that, yes, we don't have to stay stuck. We've got these two beautiful modalities that both you and Wendy were talking about that work. They work. So yeah, let's definitely use those. Well, we're nearly at the end of our time together. This went so lovely and very fast, and I'm very delighted that you were both here. Just want people listening and watching our podcast to know that, the Healing Institute is a community of holistic practitioners. So when you come to us, you might choose Marie Piplovic, who's our conscious breathing facilitator, who's with us today, or whoever you choose. We have another practitioner that does Egyptian Reiki. We have another practitioner who's a boundaries coach. As I mentioned earlier, I'm a body code practitioner. You might choose us to start, but you actually get all of us. So we always want to make sure that we are addressing exactly the symptoms that you might have and the conditions that you need healing. So all of the treatments that we put together are for you, they're not a cookie cutter. It's exactly what you need. So I just want people to understand that. Our motto is service with love. We really believe in healing the world with all the modalities we have, but also with love. And we have a big ask. We really want you to share this podcast, share our website, the QR code, the other way, QR code will take you right to the website. And yeah, let people know that we're here. Let people know we have amazing holistic practitioners to help them on their health journey. And you got to meet two more amazing health practitioners today, Lynn Schussler Williams and Wendy Lauritzen. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks so
Thank you.
much,
Thank you,
Parmelia.
Parmelia.
Thank you.